Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adobe Live Asia Pacific. My name is Flynn. I'm very happy to be here. We are streaming live from the land of the Dharawal people, and I'm here with my friend and fantastic brand and logo designer, James Barnard. Hello, James.
Hello, mate. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Happy New Year. Hope
Happy
you've
New Year.
been doing well. Yeah, I had a lovely bit of time off over Christmas, so I'm probably a bit rusty in Adobe Illustrator today, so we'll see how we do.
That's
Could
good.
be quite embarrassing.
That's good. I'm glad because I'm incredibly rusty. I talk for a living and I can't talk. No, but it's great to have you back. Like we're kicking off. Like it's going to be awesome. If you guys caught the previous stream, you'll know that we're asking a couple of creators to come on this month on a theme. We'll get to that in a second. And yeah, James is very lovely, given us some of his time. See, I can't talk. But yeah, we'll check out that brief in a sec.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Have a coffee.
More coffee. But James, I thought there might be some people here that don't know who you are. Like, obviously, you have a big following. So when we do a live stream, a lot of people do know who you are. But for those that don't, stop. Those that don't, it might be new here to Adobe Live as well. Maybe we could give a little bit of an elevator pitch before we jump into what we're doing today. So, James, who are you and what do you do?
I am James Barnard, logo designer / design educator. So half my time is spent designing logos and brands for clients all over the world. And the other half of my time I spend teaching the ins and outs of programs like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, the general nuances of being a graphic designer on my Instagram channels, on my YouTube channel, which is a lot smaller, and TikTok. What's the point of being on TikTok now? They're going to ban it in America. All my following's going to go. It's so depressing. Follow me on Instagram, basically. Yeah. So I like half my time basically teaching the ins and outs of how to do what I do in Illustrator. So hopefully today you'll learn some tips and tricks in Illustrator, and I might dive into Photoshop for 5 or 10 minutes. So a couple of little bonus tips there.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Just showing like some of your logo projects here as well. Lots of talks, Skillshare, like things with tutorials on YouTube, and I think that a lot of people will know you from the very quick, like under 60-second kind of tutorials on social media as well. So definitely go and check James out. And I think even people like us from Adobe, every now and then I see someone from Adobe being like, I didn't know you could do that either. So that's always great. So yeah, good little gold mine for tips and tricks and stuff like that. But yeah, we gave this brief. I won't run through the whole thing, but we gave you, the guys this brief of, there it is, fantastic. The idea, a single word brief, which can be great because there's lots of room, and also very challenging because there's lots of room. But the theme is home. So I guess when you saw this, other than the fact that I sent it to you in December and you're probably eyeing your out of office, what did you feel? Where did you think you might approach this brief?
Oh, mate, I had like a proper existential crisis when you sent this through. Honestly, it was insane. Like your previous guest, Jeremy, I'm an expat here in Australia. I'm not Australian. I'm from the UK. I emigrated here in 2021. So it was like right in the middle of the pandemic. I had to do 2 weeks of quarantine in a hotel room when we got here in Brisbane with my daughter, who was 2 at the time. So 2 weeks inside a room with our 2-year-old daughter, who was just like cracking, like every day, just couldn't hack it. We had like toys delivered and stuff. It was the worst. Anyway, I've been in Australia for 4 years this weekend, actually 4 years to the day on Saturday. So thank you. So one more year I'm going to go for my citizenship, and I've got to do the test and everything like that. So home for me is a very, very fluid concept, right? Like it's a weird feeling. Like Australia is my home now, and I love my adopted country. I love our life here. It's fantastic for the kids. We're right by the beach. We have a lovely lifestyle, but I do miss the UK. But saying that, I visited the UK last year in April for Adobe Max London, and when you go back home, you sort of realize that doesn't feel like home anymore. Like when I say home and I'm in the UK, that feels very kind of it's not really my home anymore, even though I lived there for the best part of my life. And then I'll be in Australia, come back here, and then my daughter takes the mickey out of me for my accent. She takes the piss out of my glottal stop all the time. She's 6 now, and she goes, "You said daughter," and every time I do like the British accent, she takes the mickey out of me now. So
that's awesome.
And I'll go to the shops and I'll say, "Have you got any chocolate bars?" And they'll go, it's called Chockies, mate. And like, you know, those little things like that just make me feel like I'm not really home. So yeah, home's a funny one for me. I don't know if there's any other expats in the chat who feel this way. So basically, there's this very, very famous quote by, let's find it here. I've got this little reference document. It's Georges Simenon, okay? And he said, "I am at home everywhere and nowhere. I'm never a stranger and I never quite belong." And that quote sums up what it's like to be an expat completely. So I don't want to go too dark in this episode, but home is everywhere and home is nowhere is quite, I mean, some people might find that statement quite a dark one, but honestly, it's a positive one. Like that home is like a fluid thing. Like can feel at home wherever I am. And like, obviously, like, you know, getting a bit topical now, but with all those fires in LA that have just happened, and you and I live in Australia, we're no stranger to, you know, fires here in Australia and then being all over the media. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So this home is everywhere sort of notion feels quite nice in that sense. So, and also I just want to, if we can, just do a little shout out and a little nod to Jess Miller, who is, you know, one of us, one of the designers. She lost her home in the fires in LA and her studio. It's the most heartbreaking thing ever. There's a GoFundMe page for Jess there. Jess designed these badges that we got at Adobe Max a couple of years ago. I don't know if can get the focus on that.
There we go. Yeah.
15 years as a graphic designer. She did a series of these pin badges for Adobe. It's just sort of 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, 15 years. They're absolutely fantastic. Give her a little bit of love there, and if you've got some beer money or some spare change, go see if you can just donate a little bit to her cause there, because she's lost her home and her parents lost their home as well, so they're completely displaced. So yeah, little shout out to Jess there.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, we'll share that link in chat as well as we're going along.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. Okay, right. So if we get started on this brief, now I have a document that I like to start my projects in. It looks a little bit like this. Obviously, we're designing this poster in A3 today, so this is not how this normally looks. Actually, normally looks like this. So 42 artboards fit to my screen. Just allows all arranged nicely, which means that, you know, when I'm copying over work from different artboards or moving, I don't have to go too far. I have a few things in here for logo design projects, which is the old client logo. So if I'm ever rebranding anybody, I'll put their old one in there so that I've got always got a reference to the old one, and I've got it stored somewhere, because you wouldn't believe how many times I've redesigned a logo for a company, haven't got their old one, and they update it immediately and you lose access to the old one really quickly.
Oh, right.
It's always good on the portfolio to show the before and after. So that reminds me to get the old one and put it in the document here. We're working on a poster, so that doesn't need to be filled in. And then I'm just going to flip over to the one that I did for this. So our success statement, this is the brief that you gave me: create a digital poster based on the topic of home. And it's an A3 style, which was on your brief before. Brand nouns. Okay, we're going to come back to this. And competitor logos, this is when I sort of research a brand or a design. I'll put in some designs from other competitors that have done work to see the kind of style of the industry, so I can keep a logo on the same kind of in that trend. So you don't want a hairdresser logo to look like a car company. You want to like make sure that the logo is recognizable in its field and it reflects the industry. So that's kind of a good way to get a sort of overview of that industry as a whole. Reference material. And also this other one here called tester typefaces. This is really good when you want to test out a client's brand name and a bunch of different workhorse fonts. And I have something like, however many, 20, 30 fonts in here. That these are the fonts that have kind of stood the test of time. You've got your Futuras, you've got your Helveticas, all sorts of stuff. I'll do a find and replace for this. And then drop that in here just to quickly see what this logo name looks like in this typeface.
That's cool. That's a great time saver, like doing that. It's awesome.
We'll use that in a minute. I'll give you an idea of that. So basically, this concept of home is everywhere and nowhere. This is the route that I want to go down with this poster today. So I've got some reference material here, a few bits and pieces from some people you might know, actually. This one in the middle is from Poster Lad, very abstract. And also I love the way that he labels all of his posters with the little annotations at the bottom. It just gives it that like kind of blueprint kind of feel there. And obviously this one here, I'm not sure who this was by. I think it was just something I found off of Google. But half-tone artwork in the middle there with some big bold type and some more labels and designs. I love it when there's like little bits of annotations annotated sort of mouse text. Some people call it mouse text.
Mouse text. I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah, when you put little details in here, so when people are looking more closely, they can have a little read and find out more about this artwork. And it kind of just adds that little bit of touch of it makes it feel like a bit of like a blueprint. I kind of love that style. And this one on the right here is Ram from Overset Text. If you don't follow him on Instagram, he's the guy that says, "Do you know what font that is?" And he points to something, and it's always Futura. Anyway, he designs posters like this, where it's like before, really retro style. Yeah, if you zoom in closely, everything's half-toned and like kind of he's added like a bit of like a grain to everything. I really like this style, so we're going to do this as well. So this is kind of my reference material. Now, in the theme of everywhere and nowhere, I use a website often called the Noun Project. Okay, so this is really good if you want to kind of conceptualize a word. Come up with an icon or something that represents something like a word like everywhere. And I typed this into the Noun Project, and we've got things like this. We've got our globes. We've got lots of different arrows and connections. So when I went back to my document and tried to fill in the brand nouns, so these are things that I can use to sort of represent a brand, treating this poster project kind of like a branding project at the same time.
Cool.
Came up with these four. So a globe and a black hole. So globe and the nodes and lines will be our everywhere. So home is everywhere. That will represent our everywhere. The black hole, which is very, very dark and
dark again, yeah.
It is, isn't it? Well, yeah. Home is everywhere and home is nowhere. This is the kind of, I want to go like half and half, everywhere / nowhere with this, with maybe a map from the UK to Australia in a line that kind of dissects that object into half of everywhere and half of nowhere. And then going back to this reference document here, we've got our those brand nouns kind of represented in images that I found from Google. So we've got our image of Australia from space here, this globe icon, this node sphere, which will be designed to kind of represent everywhere in our design. This is a little tricky to pull off in Illustrator. Obviously, you can do this manually, but it's very time consuming. So I'm going to try and go through a way to represent this or do this very quickly using a script. And then we've got our black hole as well, which is basically just a circle outlined like this. Okay, we might do, I like the way that dissects. It's kind of similar to the kind of effect that I want to go with. And then this line from Australia to the UK, we can maybe do something with that as well.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. Okay, I love that you're approaching it like a logo project. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So like, how would a logo designer like approach a poster brief? Is fun. It's great. That's exactly.
Yeah, I have to do that because like Jeremy said before in the previous stream, the brief is broad, right? Home can be anything. Right. You've got to kind of come up with a target or some way that you are going to approach this design. And I like this kind of expat style approach. All right, so I have done some work beforehand. Obviously, this is like Blue Peter. Here's one I made earlier. So I went onto Adobe Stock and found some images of the UK and Australia viewed from space. Okay, so I found these kind of, zoomed out views. Now with Adobe Stock, it's fantastic that it's actually linked to libraries, CC libraries within Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. So if I click on my libraries panel over here, I've already licensed these images and they're right here in my document that I can then just drag them onto my design and place them wherever I want. And we can put them in positions. Now you see that they are actually linked to this asset here. So if I wanted to, I could go back to, I'm just going to use this image as an example. If I click on another image in here, and if I click on this Save to Library feature, I can just add that directly to the current library that I'm working on. I haven't licensed this image yet. So what that will do is that will bring that stock photo into my library section here once it's done. Here we go, distant alien planet. Now when I drag that in, that's a mock-up, so it's going to be watermarked. It's very low resolution, and I can use this in my design and place it without actually having to license that image beforehand. Then if I want to license this image, I can purchase it directly from Illustrator. So all I have to do is right-click and press License Image, and that will use one of my Adobe Stock credits and swap that image out. Really handy feature. As long as you work non-destructively with that image, as in you don't break it, you don't erase anything, you keep it linked to this instance within the libraries panel, I can play around with this. And then when I'm ready to use it, and let's say a client wants to approve it, I just press the license image and it'll automatically swap that instance out in my artwork, remove the watermarks, and leave it where it is. So that's pretty handy.
That's
so
cool.
I'm just going to drop in my other one, which is Australia from space. I'll pop this up here. I'm going to drag this up. Now I'm going to try and keep the proportions of this the same. So if I just draw an ellipse here, and I'm going to just do that again with my stroke. I'm just going to shift and click. Now, if I hold down spacebar, I can drag that into position. I'm trying to match up the ellipse there with the edge of the Earth. So I'm trying to match it. There we go. So now we know that that's how big the globe would be if it was in the same proportion. I want Australia to be the same.
Oh, that's
so now I'm going to.
That's cool.
Yeah, like so I'm doing. So I'm going to try and match up Australia to this outline. So it's actually pretty close, but I can probably bring this up a little bit. I think it's a bit bigger. So we're trying to make that curve as accurate as possible. That's pretty good. Okay. What I think might happen here is Australia is so much bigger than the UK.
So much bigger than UK. UK looks a little.
We're gonna have scaling issues there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually just bring this down a little bit. But that's a trick you could use if you wanted to line this up. Now I have a lovely keyboard shortcut here, which is W on my keyboard, which hides edges, trim view. So if you go to view and trim view here, I've assigned that to keyboard shortcut W. If you don't know how to do that, go edit, keyboard shortcuts, find the tool in your menu command, which is view, trim view, and put your keyboard shortcut in there and press OK. So I can hide the edges like you do in InDesign with the keyboard shortcut W and match these up. And I'm just going to add a black background to this, Shift and X to invert this ellipse. Put this in my document, left align, top align, and send this to the back with Shift Command, left square bracket. And I'm just going to sample the space color here. And I want to get these sort of, actually I'll put that back as black. I'm just going to get these lined up as much as possible. Now what I want to do is draw a line connecting where I live now and where I used to live. So London is about here, just where the River Thames cuts into the land there. And I live on the Gold Coast, which is just about here in Queensland. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line. Right, quiz question, Flynn. What is the angle of the tilt of the Earth?
9 degrees?
No.
No.
Let's go with 23. I knew
it was either 9 or 23. There. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to draw a line.
How would I know that?
I know, it's a ridiculous fact. I like little things like that, with like hidden things and Easter eggs within our design though. So we're going to do a rotate tool. I'm going to double click on the rotate tool, type it. Oh, look at that. Done already. 23.5 is the angle, roughly the angle of the Earth tilt.
Right.
I thought it'd be a nice little touch to add to this design. I'm just going to make this a lighter color. I'm going to bring this over to my artwork here. And I'm going to center this, do Command and 0. Oops, wrong board. Command and 0. I'm going to center this to my artboard. I've got a special button on my macro pad that does this. Beep, boop. If you want to do that though, just center align and vertical align. Okay, I'm going to extend this out. Just click on this one, and then I've lost my. That's right. E, and then I'm going to hold down Alt. I'm just going to stretch this out a little bit and just make that nice and big. Now what I'm going to try and do is put London somewhere in that, along that line. I want to try and put the Gold Coast somewhere along that line as well. We're going to leave a space in the middle to do our icon and our little design here. So if I bring this down and then E again, I'm going to resize that, leaving that on London somewhere there. I'm going to bring up my, actually we'll go to properties, click on this. Sorry, that got loose. There we go. Stroke. I'm going to change arrowheads to a dot, kind of like a map pin. Arrow 21, do the same on the other side. Arrow 21, we'll bump up the stroke a little bit so we can see it. Those dots are quite big, but we'll sort that out in a minute. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. we go. Put London in the right spot. And I want to put the Gold Coast kind of in the right spot as well. Cool.
Nice.
All right, that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to screenshot this dirty hack, Control-Shift-Command-4, and then I'm going to just get the corner of that, screenshot it in place. I'm going to go into Photoshop, into a pre-made document of an A3 file. I'm going to paste this in place. I'm going to resize this to fit. And because we're working with those images that we used beforehand on our libraries, I'm going to build this really quickly in Photoshop using those assets and make it a lot neater and tidier. But I'm using that that line that we drew as a reference to line these up. And then I'm going to bring it back into Illustrator later on. So I'm going to select both these layers, press 5 for 50%. And I'm just going to try and line these up as much as possible to where they were. A little bit bigger. This. And then the UK. It's a little bit bigger again. And then you'll notice that we're missing the bottom of our Australian one there. It's kind of cut off. So I'm going to press 0 to make those 100% again. And I'm going to use our old friend Generative Fill to add the bottom of that. So I'm just going to get the marquee tool, Shift and M to make that a rectangular one. The bottom here, I'm just going to click Generate straight away. See what kind of job it does. Always a risk when you're live using Generative Fill, but we'll give it a go.
It is, always is.
The internet's behaving today, so hopefully we'll be good.
Valdir in chat was asking for a designer's.
Oh, okay. Designers. There you go.
There we go.
One for the
Do you
fans.
get asked that still quite a lot?
Yes. All the time. People get angry when I don't say it. Okay, great. That did a good job. Yeah, so we've got a few options there. That's kind of nice. Let's use this one because we've got a bit more breathing room with it. And also in my libraries panel, I just licensed a bit of space. So I'm just going to make this fill our document. Don't have to be too accurate with this one. Put this behind our 2 layers. And now I'm going to do Shift and E to merge the generative fill layer with the Australian map layer. Sorry, Command and E. And then I'm going to turn UK back on. And now I'm just going to isolate the planets from the backgrounds there. So I can select subject with architectural taskbar. Great, doesn't work. Let's just try it with the UK. Worked with the UK one. Mask that off. Pretty good job. I might have to do this one manually. I'll just get the marquee tool, Shift and M to turn it into an ellipse. And then holding down Shift, I can use the space bar to move this. And close enough. Okay. Mask. There we go. All right. So let's just add nice. I just want to basically, the Australian one is it's a different blue to the UK one. So I'm just going to go up to our hue and saturation. Sorry, I've clicked on the wrong one. Why is that not working? One more time. Oh, I know why it is. It's ridiculous. Because we're in CMYK mode. I was trying to be clever and do this in CMYK so that we can be, print friendly, but hue and sat doesn't work in CMYK. So there we go. Got it back again. I'm going to press Option to clip this effect layer just to this layer only, and I'm going to tweak the hue layer, try and make it a bit greener. There we go. It's looking a lot more like our UK one now, which is good. Now I'm going to put everything inside our inside a group. I'm going to duplicate that group just so that we always have an instance of this. I'm going to right click and convert this group to a smart object. And now I can start to apply some filter effects to our design here. So we've got a filter gallery, and like we were looking at in our reference document here, we've got Ram's style here is this kind of grainy halftone effect, and similar to this over here. So let's try and do this in Photoshop really quickly. So I'm just going to add a little film grain, zoom out a little bit. That's actually already really nice, kind of
Pretty
like
cool.
a retro style noise effect. It's a little bit intense, so we can bring that down a little bit. Yeah, nice. Cool. Press OK. And then also with the color halftone, we can do, let's have a look. Here we go. Image. Just trying to remember how to do this. Sorry, filter, pixelate, color halftone. Okay. Right. I know what I'm going to do here already. So basically, the way color halftone works is these channels relate to C, M, Y, K. Okay. So the top one is C. Now, if you put the same angle on all of them, and I'm just going to bump this pixel radius up a little bit as well. It will overlay all of the halftones on top of each other. So cyan, magenta, yellow, and black will go on top, and you'll just get a black halftone like this, which isn't what we want. You've got a little bit of a haloing effect going on here. So because we made this a smart object, we can just double click on our color halftone layer here, and we can change the angle. And if you just offset them all by a few degrees, so I'm just going to offset them all by 10 degrees. So 10, 10, 10, 10 difference there. Press OK, and what you get is this kind of effect where those halftones are kind of overlapping with each other. It's a little bit intense because the pixel, the radius of that is a little bit big, so we can bring the radius down. So we were kind of losing our outline of the UK there. Let's just bring that down a little bit. That's cool, but because it's so small, you're getting this kind of repeating effect where it looks like squares, and I don't want that. So I'm going to bring it up somewhere in between. Let's try 12. Better. Again, pretty intense. So what I can do is if I double click on this little button on the right hand side here, I can bring up the blend values for that halftone. And if I change it to something like multiply or overlay, it's not quite as intense now. And it's brought some of that color back as well.
That's cool.
Okay, it's looking pretty good. It's a bit bright, so I'm just going to save this. I'll just call it planets. And then in Illustrator, I can go back to my artboard. I'll do a new one here. And I will drag this over from my files over here. We called it planets. I'm going to hold down Option while I drag this, and it's going to make that a linked asset. So rather than dragging a copy of that Photoshop document into my Illustrator document, it's going to make that a linked asset, meaning that if I make changes in this document, like if I turn my halftones off and then save this, go back into Illustrator, under my links panel here, you'll see that there's this little yellow button next to planets, meaning that asset has been updated in the background. And I just had to press this button here to update that link, and it took that halftone off within my document.
Option.
So that's kind of handy. Yeah,
that is cool. I didn't know that one. There you go.
I'm just going to do a curves layer in here to darken this a little bit because it's pretty intense. And we can add a bit of like a muted effect to this as well to kind of give it a little, to make it not so in your face, so we can add some details over the back. Save that, back to Illustrator. It's been updated. Would I like to update it? Yes, I would. Bingo, bango, mongo. That's darker now. Fantastic. Okay, so I can copy this line that we did. Copy. Click on my new artboard and press Command or Control F to paste in place. Pow! Not quite right, was it? I think it's because I didn't actually check this was lined up, but that's all good because I can just.
The line is accurate. It's just a little bit. I think the bottom one is moved. See the planet down the bottom has a bit of an edge.
It did. It shifted out. Don't worry.
I think it shifted at some point.
That's totally fine because I'm going to add a border to our design. So if I click into my artboard here all the time, this background is going to get moved all the time when I'm trying to select assets. It's kind of annoying. So I'm just going to press Command 2 to lock that background layer. Now when I click on it, it's not going to get affected at all by this design. I'm also just going to add a little border to this. I'll just draw a line across here. Center that just to make sure we're in place.
So that Command 2, it locked. Was it already on a separate layer and you locked the layer?
No,
or is it just the asset?
It's layer agnostic, if that's the right word. Okay, so it's not. It doesn't matter about the layer. It's locked. If I right click on that layer and press Unlock Planets, click on it, it'll come back. Or if I lock it again, I can press the reverse of that to unlock everything, which is Option Command 2 for Windows. That's Alt Control 2.
Yep.
Bang.
Yep.
It unlocks everything.
Nice.
Like that. Okay.
Cool.
So I'm going to select those two. I'm going to lock them with Command and Control 2. Now I can play around with this without accidentally selecting the background like that.
Awesome.
Brilliant. All right, let's get on with making our node. So I want to try and recreate this everywhere concept, a globe with these lines and node connections. I'm going to try and do this as fast as possible. Now, you don't need to know how to do everything in your software, but you need to know enough to do the thing that you want to do. Okay, so I didn't know how to do this quickly. So I went to Google and I went to YouTube and I found a lovely tutorial by Creative Design, shout out to them, and how to make these sphere lines with dots.
Yes.
And it turns out it's really easy. There's a script called Triangulator. So if we go to illustratorscripts.com/scripts/triangulator, this script uses Delaunay triangulation to create a mesh of varying triangles that follow our shape's contours. Okay, Delaunay triangulation, by the way, is this? I didn't know this. It's a way of like using circles, and every time those circles intersect, it creates a node, and you connect those nodes with a triangle, and you can basically create this polygon effect inside a circle really, really quickly. So if I go, I've downloaded this script already. I am going to draw out a ellipse on our document here. I'm just going to make this a solid color stroke just so we can see it a bit more easily on screen. I've pre-installed, well, I haven't installed this. I just downloaded it to a location on my hard drive. If I go to File, Scripts, Other Script, I'll find that script on my hard drive. Right here it is, .jsx file, Triangulator. Click on Open, and look at that. Just does it for me. Fantastic. So what that is actually doing is creating a new layer, adding all of these polygons to a new layer within our document. And I kind of don't like that. It would get messy really, really quickly if we do that. So I'm just going to select everything. In my layers panel up here, on that triangulated shape layer, I'm going to click this little button. I'm going to drag those down to my artwork layer and then delete the triangulated shape layer just so it doesn't get messy. I'm going to select everything here. And in my fill values, I'm going to change that to no fill. And then I'm going to go to my stroke and just give that a 1 pixel stroke. So now they're all the same. So look at that. Straight away, we've got this kind of effect here. Now I could go further with this. If I want to, if I bring up my navigator window here and I just click on my reference artwork again, you see how the triangles in the middle are kind of wider than the ones around the outside, and it gives it this kind of spherical effect. Right. That's kind of hard to pull off. Now there's a way to do it. I'll just do it really, really quickly. I'm going to go fast. Oops, select everything, just group that and just move it up here for now. I'm going to draw a rectangle, run my, actually I'm going to draw 2 squares, the front and the back of the globe. I'm going to make my rectangle the width of 2 squares exactly. Delete that. Zoom in here, run my script again, File, Scripts, Other Scripts, Triangulator, POW, select everything, fill color, none, bump my stroke up a little bit so we can see it. I'm going to group this together, like so. So before that, I'm just going to make sure that the stroke value has a rounded corner to it, because otherwise you get these little jutty edges that stick out from where the nodes connect.
I hate those jutty edges.
They're very annoying, aren't they? They can't all the time. Sometimes you have to remove them manually. Sometimes you can get away with it like that. So I'm going to go up to my ellipse tool here, draw out an ellipse for my globe. I'm going to delete the left edge. All will become clear soon. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go to Window, Symbols, bring up my Symbols panel, select. Yeah, you wait. It's brilliant. Select my double rectangle here, click on New Symbol. We'll just call this Polygons. Okay, step 1. Go back to my arc here that we've made by cutting a circle in half. Go to Effect, 3D Materials, 3D Classic, because this is much less CPU intensive and I don't want my computer to crash. Revolve, and it's going to create a sphere. And I'm just going to turn the shading off so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to go to Map Art, Invisible Geometry. Now I'm going to go up to my Symbols panel. This is why we made our symbol earlier. Bring up my polygons. Boom. Whoa. Now I can position this around my sphere, and it's going to wrap our polygon shape around our sphere. So it's giving it the impression that that's, you know, in our actually wrapping those polygons around the design. So that's something you can try out.
That's very cool. I love that.
Yeah. And if you just press OK, there we go. And then you can expand that, obviously. Not done a great job because I rushed that, but so we're just going to use this one for now. I am going to take this object here. I want to duplicate it. Now you see in our reference here, the ones at the back are kind of like lighter opacity than the ones at the front. So it gives it the effect that the sphere is translucent, and that those nodes are kind of wrapping all the way around our design. So what I can do in our document here is take these, duplicate them. I can flip them. I've got a little button that does that, and rotate it. I can bring the stroke weight of these down, make it much thinner, and just center these two. And now we've got this kind of like ball shape node thing going on. All right. Now I'm going to bring this over. See, it's all still live, so it's still a stroke. It can still change the color of everything. You see, we've got these jutty outy edges here that we were talking about before. So in our stroke panel, I'm just going to change that to a round corner, and they disappear. Easy peasy. Oops. And I'm going to copy this over to our design. I'm going to paste this in place. I'm going to group it, and I'm going to press my magic button. Oh, I was on the wrong artboard. Click my artboard to select it, center it, bring it up a little bit. I'm going to change my stroke color to a lighter color. And there's our everywhere concept right in the middle of Australia and the UK. Nice. Okay, so that's kind of cool. What I'm going to do now is cut this in half, and we can just actually just do that by double clicking into this layer, double click, select our circle element there, Command 0 to bring that back, paste this over the top, and we can delete one side of it, this exact circle. In fact, let's just rotate that so that those edges line up like that. So it's kind of on the same plane as our 23 angle. Can delete. Tell you what, I'm just going to do this live. I'm just going to make this pink so we can see it on our screen.
So you're trying to select the smaller one, or you're making a circle around the outside?
Actually, I'm being an idiot. I can do this in a much faster way. If I press Apple F to put that back in place, I'm going to make it pink again. I always like to be accurate. I just want to make sure that they line up. I'm going to just copy this line and this line like that, and I'm going to do Shift and M. I'm going to use the Shape Builder tool to cut away that right side. So we've got an exact half circle there, which I'm going to use as a clipping mask for our background design. So if I select them both and press Command 7, power, just one half of our design. Now I can press Command F to paste the original lines back in place, and they're exactly where they were before. And now I can just sample that light color there. So now we've got one half is everywhere, one half is nowhere.
Nice.
We can bump up our stroke value a little bit there, just to give it a sort of an outside edge. And those dots on the end now are absolutely enormous. So we can go to our stroke panel, align those to the edge, and then we can make sure that this is related to, so the link is checked here, and then we just bring down the percentage value of those dots. Not quite enough. There we go. 50%. That's pretty cool.
So when you unlink that, it unlinks it from like the global change
from each other.
Of the...
Yeah.
Oh, cool. From the stroke,
right.
When you're changing the stroke. Cool.
That's right. And if I go to the end of this node here and I press Shift Option with my ellipse tool, I can draw a circle out and do that kind of target style node there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a bit more like user interface kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just drag this one
Map
and align
design
it
or something.
That's it. Yeah. Don't know why that's not snapping. There we go. Cool. Looking good.
Cool.
One issue is that somewhere here I've got a node going on here that's added an arrow to, where is it? This for some reason. There's a line in there. You see it's got two nodes on it.
Must have been when you cut it, right? When you
maybe, yeah.
Shape Builder. That's funny that it made a line instead of joining the shape.
I'm gonna go Shift bracket left. ungroup, maybe. Maybe I need to turn the stroke off on this one. Huh. Can't get rid of it. Brilliant. Okay, well, that's there forever until I can figure out how to get rid of that. We'll just leave it there for now. Okay, let's bring this down in weight a little bit. I think it's because somewhere inside that clipping mask, there's a line. I think the clipping mask itself has... It's going to annoy me, that, Flynn. Sorry, I've got to get rid of it.
You tried to move on, and then...
I did. I can't.
You couldn't
my
do it.
OCD will destroy me. It's the mask itself has a stroke on it.
I love it.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Inside the clipping mask, somehow there's a line. This line here. Oh, no. Okay, I'm not.
Can you just turn off arrows on the stroke?
I don't think because it's all selected.
Okay.
Anyone in chat want to tell us how to fix that? That'd be fantastic. It's somewhere inside that clipping mask. I've added a line. I've left the line left over from the shape builder tool, and it's assigned that dot to those nodes. It'll take too long to fix it on the live stream, but we'll fix it another time.
That's awesome.
Okay,
I love that.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm just going to duplicate that outside edge. Do a little border here, and then I'm going to do one more in between. I'm going to use this line to add some type to this. Okay, so let's go back up to our reference document here. Home is everywhere and home is nowhere. So if we go everywhere like this and go back to our tester typefaces, if I go to edit, find and replace, type in your type here. You've probably seen me do this on another stream. Put in a word that we want to test our typeface in and press find. I'll find every instance of your type here. Replace all. And there we go. We've got our typeface in every single one of these options. We can try and find one will be the most clear. I'm going to use this one at the bottom here, Lulo1, because it's all in caps already. If I wanted to make everything caps though to test it out, obviously just do that in the paragraph or character panel, sorry, like this. I'm going to use Lulo1. This is lovely. Let's just bring this down to our design. And we're going to do everywhere and nowhere in our type here. So, and nowhere.
There's two suggestions of what we could do to like sort out that clipping mask thing, but I'll
Fix
save it
this
for the
node.
end. I'll save it for the end. All right.
You tell me, and then I'll see if I can do it quickly before we finish up.
Yeah. Have an experimentation part at the end of the stream today.
Yeah, fantastic. Love it. All right, select our innermost line there. Hold down on the type tool and click type on a path, and then we just tap on that line. And now we can paste in our everywhere and nowhere line that we did before. And we're just going to, actually, I didn't paste the right one. Copy and paste that. There we go, everywhere and nowhere. And I'm just going to bring this around. Now, the word everywhere is longer than the word nowhere. So ideally, I would want to put everywhere on this side and nowhere on this side, but it's not going to work in this instance because it's too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this small enough to fit on one side. I'm just going to center that, sorry, and then bring this back over here. If I double click on type on a path tool and press preview, we can change elements of this live on the fly. So I can flip them upside down. I can align it to the center line, which is what I wanted to do. Press OK. Bring the size down a little bit. I'm going to copy and paste that with Command C, Command F, which is paste in place. Rotate that on right the way around. And there we go. We've got it front and back.
Nice.
So we've got this kind of like lovely looking sort of representation of everywhere and nowhere between Australia and the UK there. Kind of like a sort of diagram in the middle. How long have we got left, Flynn? 15 minutes
cool.
or
10 minutes.
An hour?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's add some. I'm just going to bump up the stroke weight a little bit of the border. Look at this, and then lock it again. Command 2. And then we can use our Lulo typeface, which it should still be selected. It's not. It's flicked to
default.
Futura. Let's just change that. Yeah, my default is Futura, if you didn't know already. Lulo. I love this typeface. Make this light. We can try and add some little typographic elements into our design here. So I want to keep this live, left align this text, rotate it, and then bring it up. Start adding this into our design. We can also just decrease the tracking on this a little bit because it's quite a widely tracked typeface. Also, I love, like we were talking about before, about poster lads posters, where he's got these little sort of icon elements like running around it, little labels. I love that. I want to do this in our design. So I can draw a rectangle from the bottom in the same color and just add a little bit of footer space for our elements. And I pre-made some over here with some little mouse text with the quote in it. I think I might do this one here. And then
mouse text is cute. I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
I just always thought it was like editorial, like it's a little bit like it's in a magazine or
like a label.
Yeah,
like a page label for a design.
Yeah,
add that in. It starts
like
looking
a print
more
run
like
thing. That's like the details that you give to the printer, sort of thing. Like
that's it. Yeah, let's add some more elements in here, and then shrink this down a little bit. Kind of cool. Also, what I'd love to do like a isolated representation of this thing in the middle here. So let's draw a circle. In fact, we can just copy this circle here, bring it down, and then we'll copy our line 2. I want to take the stroke off, take our arrowheads off, sorry, before I do this time, so I don't forget. There we go. Center these two things to themselves, and then I'm going to do another copy and paste of that inside. I want to get our shape builder on, Shift and M, Option to remove that and that. I'm going to tap each portion to make those shapes. And now we're going to do like a kind of like a representation of this. I'm going to do Shift and X to change that into a solid, and then Shift and X on this one. Actually, I'm just going to fill this one. And there we go. We've got kind of like a everywhere and nowhere icon that we can use as like a sort of a representation of this. Bring this up here, and then I'm going to grab that quote from George Simenon. I am at home everywhere and nowhere. I am never a stranger, and I never quite belong. Bring this over here.
It's looking cool.
Design.
Looking good.
Yeah, building it, going quickly now. Oops, let's get our type tool up. Actually, I've pasted this as a text box, and that's good. I'm just going to draw out a box, and copy and paste this into a box, and then that way we can manipulate the edges of that box so that the text starts to wrap. We can get this nice, looking nice on a on 3 lines. Better. Let's move this over here, and then shrink this down with E, transform. Move this guy out of the way for a minute. Bring this guy down. I'm just going to do Option Command E to expand this, and then Pathfinder, unite those together. So that's now lovely. If I do Command Y, that's just like a lovely, nice shape rather than strokes and fills. So then when I resize it, I can manipulate it and play with it a bit better. I'm going to draw a box around this guy, Shift and X, and then I to sample this stroke width. Cool. Draw a box around our lovely type here. And I'm going to copy that and paste it over itself, and then draw another box out. So we're creating this kind of like boxed label.
Yeah, it's like a stamp,
kind of like a cool effect.
Or something.
Like like a little label for the corner
of
our design. It's like a nice little typographical element that we can add in there. Cool. And then something like that.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, it looks great.
Something like that. That's looking all right, isn't it? I might just actually just grab this. I left a space for it down here and make this one dark. Pop that in the center of our design and align it with our footer. How?
Very cool.
What do you think?
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the quote element. Like, I love the meaning behind it as well. Like, and even the hidden meaning, if you're the only one that kind of knows that the tilt is that. Like, obviously it's not 9 degrees. Everybody knows that it's not 9. But 23.5 is, you know, it's obvious when you see it. But even if it's something to yourself, like, you know, it has a purpose, which is that whole like branding and logo design in your blood coming through, which I think is really, really neat. And you have 4 minutes to figure this out.
Problem.
Shout out to didn't want to do a lot of interrupting during that because I knew you were working very quick as you always do. But shout out to Tim Walter in chat from Arizona. Thanks for jumping in and throwing your name in the chat. That's really great to see that. And Cassandra as well, who had a great suggestion. So we got a suggestion from Jeremy and Cassandra. Can you use the direct selection when you are in the clipping mask? Are you able to use the direct selection tool when you're in the clipping mask?
Yes, you are. Yeah,
you got rid of it while I was just talking.
I did. Yeah, I did. The reason what happened there was basically the in somewhere inside that clipping mask, I'd left that line in from the shape builder tool. So when I used the shape builder tool to edit that circle, that outside circle, I left these nodes on the corner. So what happened was when I used the shape builder tool to cut away and leave that circle, it left the outer lying line there.
Right.
So all I needed to do was get that, delete it, and then that would have worked. And now I can use this on the top to bring this to the front, and I can just drag this back and snap it over where it was before. Select the background, Command 7, and we fixed it. There we go.
It's like the behavior of the shape builder tool then, really, isn't it? Because you could assume that it wouldn't leave that line.
Yeah, shape builder tool can be really messy. You gotta be careful with it. It's great. It's so fast for cutting out path points and stuff. But if you have something like quite a complicated shape, it often leaves like path points left over and weird little nodes where there shouldn't be. It can be a bit of a disaster. So you got to really kind of be careful with it. So it is sometimes just faster just to use your good old fashioned Pathfinder tools, and use your Boolean operations, your minus front, your unite, and your intersect and your exclude. And oftentimes it's faster. And like we've said in previous streams, I have a macro keyboard which has those 4 buttons assigned to them because I use them so often. It's a lot faster to work with. It's just for the sake of this stream. It was really a quick way for me to create that semicircle at that angle using the shapes that we'd already made. So it was just a nice, accurate process.
That was awesome. And there was also a suggestion from Jeremy as well, who was like, can you not MacGyver it and just place a clipping mask over the 2 quarter circles? Which is funny because that's something I would do as well. Like, not necessarily solve the problem, but just visually make it look okay and just move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever works. Whatever works, right?
Yeah.
All right.
That's excellent.
Steve.
That's super cool and so fast, of course. Like, I think the speed at which you could work, and this is kind of a little bit out of your wheelhouse. Like, I know we're in Illustrator.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily full on.
Went into Photoshop there for a minute, didn't I?
I know.
Nuts for a second. It's crazy.
I know. It's crazy. It's like loving pubs and going dancing. You dip your toe, which was fantastic, and I'm very proud of you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Shout out to Ernesto as well. Like I said, splendid. Jeremy, looking cool. Cassandra, great work. Do you ever use grids when designing a layout like this? Question from Cassandra.
Yeah, probably should have, shouldn't I? With layout as well, we probably should be using InDesign for this, shouldn't we? If we're pulling in different elements like photos and vectors, Illustrator is the place to do that because it's a lot easier to work in grids with this. But yeah, grids would have been good for this. I just don't like to be constrained by grids straight off. What I like to do is to use, if I'm doing something like this, is work really fast. And then at the end of the process, like within logo design, you did the gridding processes where you line everything up and make sure everything's really neat and everything's kind of tied together. That's a really great process, actually. If you have the book, The Principles of Logo Design, look at that, I just had it on hand. There's a section in here about gridding where you take a design right at the end of the process, pretty much after the client has signed it off. And then you create grids and then you line your logo up to those grids to make so that you know that it's perfect. There we go, gridding, page 166. This book is fantastic. It's by George Buckawa and it's called The Principles of Logo Design. There you go, section on gridding, where you line up your designs with a grid afterwards to perfect them and make them absolutely harmonious and beautiful. It's such a gorgeous book. Check it out.
Or you could always just say, I'm from the school of David Carson and he hates grids. So either way, retroactively, whoever you feel like being inspired by that day. And Tim W. Oliver says, these voodoo moments are learning moments. Great to see James work that out in real time. Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. Get stumped and then figure it out. But hey, so we don't get cut off. James, thank you so much. That was awesome. We've only got a couple of seconds before we get cut off. And looking forward to having you back on Adobe Live sometime down the track.
Thanks, mate. See you soon. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.